G'day, Shane Dowling from the website and YouTube channel, Kangaroo Court of Australia. And I'm here with Zirkin from True Crime News Weekly, or was it True
True
News
News.
Weekly now?
Yeah, now True
Changed
News
your name,
Weekly now, my man.
True News Weekly. You changed it a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago, was it? So,
About a year ago now. Time
about a
flies.
year ago, I forget. Anyhow, we're here to discuss Brittany Higgins and her defamation case. Uh, Senator Linda Reynolds sued her, and it came down with a judgment a few weeks ago where Senator Linda Reynolds has won. And Brittany Higgins, there was a discussion that, or not a discussion, she put out a statement that gave the impression she was going to move on. But then last Wednesday, the last day she could possibly file her appeal, she filed it. So that changed the situation a bit. And I'm just going to read you out a bit of an article from the ABC, give you a bit of a brief overview of the appeal. And it said Brittany Higgins files last day appeal over ex-Senator Linda Reynolds' defamation win. And as I said, it was filed last Wednesday. It was filed, it says here, not long after Brittany Higgins was served a bankruptcy notice by Linda Reynolds' legal team. Now, that implies they're linked, but we'll discuss that in a minute. I'll just get the facts out there at the moment. The lodging of the appeal means that the proceedings will essentially be put on hold, the bankruptcy proceedings, until appeal is decided. And the bankruptcy would have to be decided by the federal court. Brittany Higgins is seeking to fight the ruling that she owes Linda Reynolds $340,000 in damages. And she's also trying to challenge the ruling that Brittany Higgins has to pay 80% of Linda Reynolds' costs, legal costs. Now, in the meantime, David Shiraz has been, Brittany Higgins' husband, has been found liable for $220,000 in damages for defaming Miss Reynolds, as well as her legal costs. Now, there's an article up on News Corp today, and it says Brittany Higgins' $2.4 million compensation payment could be all gone. Now, ultimately, it was only $1.9 million we found from the Bruce Lemon's defamation case. $2.4 million was the gross amount after legal costs and other costs. It went down to taxation, I think, $1.9 million. And they're saying today there's not enough money left to pay the $340,000 damages and the estimated $1 million legal fees for Linda Reynolds. Now, Brittany Higgins paid an estimated $600,000 in legal costs, which meant there was $1.3 million left. And it says here the shock development means, and I've highlighted the shock development, means that Linda Reynolds is unlikely to recover any of her money. And I say shock development, I wrote an article a few weeks ago saying that could be a likely case. I think everyone knew that Brittany Higgins could potentially file for bankruptcy. Now, sources close to the couple says, or have told News, that only $50,000 remains in the trust. And it says here, if they eventually declare bankrupt, Linda Reynolds could seek to garnish their wages, but only when earnings are over $90,000, which could be problematic for Linda Reynolds. Now, insiders claim that Linda Reynolds' legal team were warned that Ms. Higgins had just over $10,000 to her name outside of the trust. And I'll read out what Brittany Higgins' lawyers wrote to Linda Reynolds' lawyers and said, "My client may never overcome the trauma she suffered as a consequence of the rape and remains immovable in relation to what she regards as a request for her to abandon her feelings and beliefs about that traumatic event in the immediate aftermath," her lawyer wrote to Miss Reynolds' legal team. And goes on to say, "Your client remains at risk even if she is successful. Your client will never restore her reputation by suing a staffer raped in her office," which we all know. Now, the key part there I found amusing, that they're saying it's a shock development. She mightn't have any money left. Well, we all knew that because you only had to crunch the numbers. Okay. Brittany Higgins' own legal costs, take out that, leaves $1.3 million. Over 3 years, she hasn't worked. Her husband's only recently started a new job that I know of. So it should be no surprise to Linda Reynolds. And if she does end up bankrupt herself, she might have to declare bankruptcy. I wrote that in an article a few weeks ago, and that
Mm.
was titled "Will Linda Reynolds have to declare bankruptcy if Brittany Higgins can't pay because she's run up apparently over $1 million of her own legal fees?" Which to me that seems very strange. Surely Linda Reynolds and her own legal team would have realised at some point they might never get their money. What did you think, Sirkin?
This was always been well, I guess first let me welcome myself back to your video podcast, Shane. Always doing a good job. But this has always been mooted or in the background that there's so many inquiries and court cases and legal fees to pay that she was always going to probably be in a position where she was going to argue she can't pay these, as you're saying, racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars, $1 million, just Linda Reynolds fees to Martin Bennett and his team of solicitors and barristers. It's always been hovering in the background that Linda Reynolds's actions against Brittany Higgins here were going to end up being I don't know, a Pyrrhic victory of sorts, in the sense that it's just a schmozzle. There's this appeal that's been granted, or that Higgins has filed, apparently on the in the media reports. It said a last day appeal, like on the last possible hours she's filed it. It's just going to drag Linda Reynolds through the mud and through further costs for at least another, what, 12, 18 months. This appeal won't be heard next week or next month. It'll be next year sometime. And that's if it's the earliest. And so I agree with you, Shane, that the money angle here, what Linda Reynolds's plot here was to her hubris has got in the way, I feel, Shane, is that her own ego in not seeing sense, she's been blinded. And so here we go. It's just going to continue this deep pit of, as I said, inquiries and appeals and court cases involving Higgins, Lerman, and hangers-on and associates. It's There'll be a legal student university courses for students will be looking at this in decades to come, I suspect.
The thing is, and let's discuss that, the appeals filed on the last day, and they're implying it was filed not long after Linda Reynolds served Brittany Higgins with a bankruptcy notice. I don't think they're connected because they both, Brittany Higgins would have known the bankruptcy notice was going to come at some stage. So that I don't think is a motivation. Uh, it could be to just file appeal to delay the bankruptcy notice a while. Maybe it comes sooner than she expected. She might have thought it would be a few months. And maybe they decided, look, we'll get in now, file that. That stops the bankruptcy notice or bankruptcy proceedings going any further until the appeal's heard. And that gives her another few months to sort out her finances. I have read that there's different legal opinion, and most of the legal opinion is that Linda Reynolds can't get any money in the trust anyhow. But now they're saying there's no money in the trust, so it really doesn't matter. So I don't think they're linked. But one of the things about the appeal that's fairly enticing, probably for Brittany Higgins, is even if they don't follow through with it, because that's a cost, another cost there, which Brittany Higgins is going to have to pay her own lawyers. But even if she doesn't
Mm.
follow through with the costs, she gets to file the paperwork. And once the paperwork's in, it becomes protected absolute privilege. And she can file that and point out all the lies Linda Reynolds told during the court case, because the judge has
Yes.
come down and done a list of 10, 20, 30 times that he claims that Brittany Higgins lied. Well, the lawyers can return serve in their appeal paperwork and point out 10, 20, 30 times Linda Reynolds has lied. Then it's
Well,
protected, absolutely privileged, and then they can pull the appeal at later date anyhow.
well, I think the reason for the appeal here is there's simply enough grounds to have an appeal because Judge Paul Tottle has gone. It's similar to what Justice Michael Lee did in the defamation case. For some reason, I think you and I probably have hinted at what the reasons are. Both these judges went above and beyond to somehow become fake investigators of if there was a cover-up, but they never actually did any fact-finding missions on if there was a cover-up by the Liberal Party hero of Lerman's rape of Higgins in the Parliament House in Canberra many years ago now. This has dragged on for so long. And so Judge Paul Tottle, in trying to prove that there wasn't a Liberal Party cover-up, went kind of above and beyond his means and gave some silly suggestions why he believed there wasn't a cover-up and why hence Linda Reynolds had been defamed because she was always acting in the best interests of Brittany Higgins. Now, many people in the independent media and on social media for the last few years have pointed out the many holes in the case, involving Scott Morrison and his lackeys in the Prime Minister's department and the timing of things. And in Judge Paul Tottle's judgment, he heavily lends on Linda Reynolds's truthful memories and her staffer Fiona Brown, who was apparently too ill to even discuss her statements or her previous statements in the defamation case involving Lerman, and which Michael Lee presided over, Justice Lee. And so Judge Paul Tottle's this defamation case with Higgins and Reynolds again became this bizarre de facto, the Liberal Party didn't cover up anything. And then the judges went out of their way to say this, but at the same time, they never actually did any investigation or fact finding or anything where they looked at this truthfully, whether there was a cover up. It's just like they were trying to protect the Liberal Party at the highest levels, that sure, Lerman's a rapist, but no one else was involved in the cover up. And so in the defamation judgment, I think Judge Tottle's gone a bit too far, because in one of the things in one of his bits in the judgment, he suggests clearly that he preferred the evidence of Linda Reynolds, who, as you've written about, is an admitted perjurer in court cases. And so he's admitted that he's preferred her evidence and Fiona Brown's evidence over the detailed handwritten notes of a senior AFP officer who ended up becoming a deputy commissioner. He preferred the evidence of Linda Reynolds, which he himself claimed was muddled and self-serving pretty much. But he's kind of given grounds here for a possible appeal with a good legal team, as you said yourself, can point out a number of vagaries in the evidence presented by Linda Reynolds and Fiona Brown and others, and that there's enough here for appeals judges to kind of look at this again. And so it's just going to drag out. It's going to keep dragging out, as I said, for another, 12, 18 months, maybe longer. Linda Reynolds is going to be, her reputation of, if it still exists, is going to go through the same rigmarole. And so who are the winners out of this? I guess the legal system, the justice industry, because this is a revolving door of, as you said, legal bills, costs, counterclaims. And it's just, as I said, it will become a soap opera or some TV show for Netflix eventually, because it's just absurd now. And so, Shane, where we go from here in this case is just to wait and see. I think that if I was just reading some of the articles while we've been discussing things, and you've got the who's who of your defamation lawyers that you and I have come across who've been involved in this, who have been helping out Brittany Higgins, Leon's Wire from the Liebler firm, the notorious Liebler firm there in Melbourne, heavy backers of genocidal Israel. And then Rebecca Giles has also been helping out Brittany Higgins in the background, pro bono apparently. So this has just been a Liberal Party shit fight, if I can use the word, Shane. And these hangers on and these acolytes in the background, they're the ones who've kept this going on, I suspect. And who the funders are for these people, like Linda Reynolds is claiming she had no money to do the case. So who's funding her? Is it a Kerry Stokes type? Is it a Gina Reinhart type? Questions remain about Bruce Lerman himself, his funders, considering his many court cases in different jurisdictions.
Well, I think with the appeal, I don't see it going its full course, because she's saying she's got no money. So if it goes its full course, the question becomes, how has she got how's Brittany Higgins got all this money all of a sudden to run the appeal, unless she transferred some of her trust money into a lawyer's trust account to fund the legal expenses and potentially appeal as well. Well, then it's understandable that she has got sufficient funds. But unless she comes out and says that, well, at the moment, it looks like she hasn't got enough money to run the appeal. But it probably, like I said before, it's a strategic move to, number one, stop the bankruptcy proceedings going forward at this point in time. So I'll give her a few more months to sort out her finances or whatever. But in relation to Toddle had a justification of determining whether it was a cover up to a degree, because that was the allegation that Linda Reynolds says was defamatory. So he had justification to look at that, whereas Justice Lee in the Bruce Lerman one, well, he had no real justification. That wasn't what Bruce Lerman was saying defamed him. So he went off sidetracked on that issue. And um, who was it? Who was a lawyer and not the lawyer, the journalist, Lisa Wilkinson, her barrister, argued that at the appeal too, the appeal's been reserved. Bruce
That's
Lerman's
right.
appeal in his defamation matter has been heard. The judgment's been reserved. But during the course of that appeal, I remember Lisa Wilkinson's barrister was arguing, hey, that's not part of your judgment. That wasn't part of the judgment that Justice Lee should have been handing down. But where it goes, well, no one knows, as we know, but I can't see it going its full course. But Linda Reynolds, she's saying she mortgaged her house, so she's paying illegal fees. But in saying that, she had to know, and her lawyers had to know, there's a good chance they'd never get the money. So is she that stupid she was going to wipe herself out? I think there's someone in the background saying, hey, even if you lose, we'll help you out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it just seems too stupid to believe that she'd just bankrupt herself for a situation where she hasn't improved her reputation. She's made it worse by suing a rape victim. But I suppose we'll have to see where that goes. Uh, how about we talk about Bruce Lerman now? He's got three legal cases are still afoot: the
Yeah.
defamation case, the rape trial in Queensland, and the car theft case. What do you think about them?
Yes, and another one, he's launched the court appeal against the NACC, the supposed corruption commission, which is looking into his involvement in some possible swiping of documents related to the French submarine nuclear deal, which went under and AUKUS came about. And so he's got the Tasmanian court case where he's wanted for stealing a friend or an associate's mum's ute. That's going to be listed for a 4-day trial sometime maybe later this year or early next year, still undefined on when the date is. So he's got a criminal matter there. Then obviously he's got another criminal matter, the infamous second rape case in Toowoomba, where he's trying to, at the moment, he's trying to gain all the contents of his alleged victim's mobile phones through a Celebrite a download of her phone, which is an Israeli technology which the police use to get people's details off their phones. And so Lerman, more delaying tactics in that case. His barrister, I think Zali Burrows, who we all saw in the appeal performing there for the cameras. She's once again trying some delaying tactics in a number of in the Tasmania case, where they're also arguing for certain provisions to be made. It's interesting. Lerman's got all these cases, and he never appears in court really for them. He's always either on the phone or his lawyers appearing for them. He gets a fair bit of leeway for being quite a notorious character, but only time will tell when all this will come together in all these cases. Is he going to be able to be in 3 different states at once, with all these cases kind of going on around the same time? So he's a very busy man. He might hold a record in Australia or elsewhere for the most kind of cases in different court jurisdictions all at the same time, with serious cases going on all at the same time, and he's juggling all these matters. He, like many people now involved in these matters, is claiming poverty and destitution and hardship. He's claimed in his latest case with the Corruption Commission that he needs to self-represent himself because he has no funds whatsoever for a legal team. But at the same time, he wants the media to have full access to this hearing that he wants to launch. He wants to be a fully public media, show again. And so he might be addicted to these court processes, Shane. Some people get wrapped up with he might have a sense of, obviously being a rapist, he has a sense of issues with power and narcissism. He might get a narcissistic kick from being involved in all these court cases and having his name still talked about in some kind of weird way. Because if this was me, I would be doing my best to wrap up these court cases rather than elongating them and delaying them, sometimes delaying the inevitable. And so Bruce Lerman, yeah, the character of Australia that everyone wants to forget about, he just keeps popping up. As I said, in every jurisdiction, he can't get enough of these legal processes. And so, who's backing him? Like, he's launching this case against the NACC, claims he's doing it with no money, but then he's got legal backing for these other cases. His
No,
legal,
he's got pro
he,
bono. He's got
He's
a
got
lawyer
that's
pro
what I was,
bono.
that's what I was going to say. He was getting some kind of backing, but the quality of his legal teams has diminished to the point that you feel like he is really struggling to string a few bucks together, or his benefactors have kind of pulled the rug underneath him a bit, and so he's now kind of flying a bit more solo. But I think it would be a great day for the nation when Bruce Lerman quietly just disappears, whether that's punishment in a prison for his alleged criminal activities, or just quietly living his life away from the media limelight and trying to, put himself in all these positions. I think the nation has kind of they've had enough of him, really. They want to move on. Like every time you see the social media chat or the commentary around these inquiries and cases now, it's pretty much like they've had the public has had enough of the toing and froing of these characters, and why don't they just let Brittany Higgins live her life? These politicians who are now like yesterday's news, like Linda Reynolds, quietly collect their pension and disappear into the ether, really, because they're not adding anything to the public debate here anymore. They're just travailing over old personal issues, it seems like. And so, as I said, it's become a theater of the absurd, a political melodrama.
One of the things with the NACC, the National Anti-Corruption Commission, proceedings, which Lerman's has instituted, is because he did have paid lawyers and they promised to pay the lawyers. So he went and got himself some lawyers. That's what it sounds like to me. And then they've sort of reneged. They're not paying the lawyers at the moment. So they're either not paying them or they're dragging it out, and he's trying to make sure they get paid. So that's why he's representing himself. To sit back and think he's got backers now is ridiculous, because he's got pro bono lawyer and she's not the best at all. So it's understandable why he's representing himself in that matter. But that matter is interesting. I remember writing an article, I think you probably did too, that relates to John McGowan, where the National Anti-Corruption Commission investigated Bruce Lerman. He's come out and said they've investigated him for apparently stealing documents at the same time, or close to the same time, of the alleged rape, or not alleged rape, the rape of Brittany Higgins. And that is because John McGowan wasn't he impersonating an ASIO official on Twitter? And that's how that came about. I remember writing an article about it. So, because John McGowan's house and Bruce Lerman's house were raided by the federal police.
That's right. John McGowan's girlfriend's Elwood home. You have to clear that up. It wasn't John McGowan's home. It was his girlfriend's home in Elwood here in Sydney's inner west.
So
But yes,
that was raided.
John McGowan claims it is it's an insane conspiracy that was he said to a journalist as part of the conversation as a joke. That's what he claims. But you're right. That's where it seems like his loose lips have said something to a journo. A journo has then mentioned something. The NACC has then acted. But he's claiming it's all based on just a fake joke just to big himself up. Who knows? What
That
we can
led to
say,
the federal police
yeah,
raids of his
yes,
girlfriend's house and Lerman's house and Lerman's legal fees, and so it snowballed. Uh,
and maybe McGowan and Lerman aren't such good friends anymore after all this either. Who knows?
well, I think McGowan's probably the one who leaked that video of Bruce Lerman singing "I fought the law and the law
Oh
won."
yeah, yeah,
So someone had to leak it, and it was probably John McGowan, I suspect, because they were good friends at that time. But then they had a falling out not long after that, or around that same time. So, but we'll leave it there, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll see what happens. I think over the next few weeks, obviously, we're going to become a lot wiser. What does happen with the appeal? If she files appeal paperwork outlining the grounds and maybe some of the evidence, and that'll get leaked to the media. I think that'll embarrass Linda Reynolds tenfold. And what does Linda Reynolds do? Defend the appeal, spend millions, well, potentially another hundreds of $1,000s defending the appeal. That sort of boxed Linda Reynolds in too. That's probably another angle that Brittany Higgins is thinking, hey, look, you're not going to get any money if you defend this appeal. That's just good money after bad. So
yeah.
I think Linda Reynolds have dug a huge hole for herself. But as I said before, there's probably someone in the background saying, look, follow through, try and restore the reputation of the Liberal Party by getting those judges saying there's no cover up. And then we'll
Indeed.
look after you later down the track. Because I
Shane,
did read where Linda Reynolds says she's going to be trying to cash in on AUKUS, like they all are, both Liberal and Labor politicians.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Shane. I think this is the kind of big context here is why these people keep getting involved in these, as we can see as like useless or frivolous or vexatious law claims, is that there seems to be this his attempt at historical narrative writing. So, oh, the Liberal Party was never involved in a cover-up. So when the people look at this in 10, 20, 30 years' time, officially it looks like there was no cover-up. And so that's what I think the aim of the game for a lot of these Linda Reynolds and others like her, even Fiona Brown's involved in a court case where she's trying to claim money from the Commonwealth too now. And so I think the whole, you pretty much encapsulated what the main overarching goal here is, and that is to kind of protect the Liberal Party from being officially involved in this sordid scandal and cover up involving a very serious crime. And so we'll see where it goes from here, Shane. As I said, it's going to go for at least another 12, 18, 24 months. And hopefully the chapter will eventually close and all of Australia can move on, especially Brittany Higgins, can move on with their lives.
Hmm. Just one thing there before we go. Justice Tottle, not only did he find Linda Reynolds very credible, he found Fiona Brown credible. Now,
Yeah.
the story with Fiona Brown is she was ducking and weaving, trying to avoid giving evidence in the Bruce Lerman defamation matter. She was overseas, she was avoiding it, doing everything she could to avoid it. But Justice Lee, to his credit, he did, dig in and sort of, she eventually did give evidence, but she refused to give evidence, well, on medical grounds in Linda Reynolds' defamation case. And Justice Tottle found her credible.
It's completely off.
Witnesses doing that got no credibility. Then on the same token, she's suing Fiona Brennan suing the government.
And the
How
interesting
credible is
thing
the evidence in that?
is what's weird is Judge Todd only had Fiona Brown's evidence in the Lerman case in Sydney, where Justice Lee was presiding over, and her evidence and her behaviour and her mannerisms in that left a lot to be desired. And so, for Toddle to say she's a credible witness, that's why I'm saying there's enough grounds here for at least a decent appeal, where that's got any chances of getting up or going the full distance. There's at least enough grounds for at least an appeal to be lodged and not be thrown out immediately. So we'll see what happens. And yeah,
Yep.
Linda Reynolds is just going to put Fiona Brown more into the mud, I think. And I suspect Fiona Brown just wants to move on with her life. And well, she's not going to be able to either.
See what happens. Anyhow, thanks for your time, Sirkin. We'll catch up next
Cheers,
time.
mate. Keep up the great work, Shane.